Hi, my name is Bill. Welcome to my garden. Today is September 5th, 2022, and I want to start here at the end of the growing season, and we'll take a journey through the end of the season all the way up through the beginning of next season. So come on to my garden. So as you walk through the garden, we have morning glories coming up a trellis. There's also here are grapes, seedless grapes. So what I had to try to do is I have to separate them, but we'll get after that towards when it gets cooler, towards the middle to the end of October. That's when the morning glory die off, and then we're able to trim. Then I'm going to be able to trim the grapes so I can get them.
What's that down in front of you?
This right here is catnip. This has been a great source for bees, for our bees, which we'll touch a little bit later in episodes, but for every kind of bee possible. This has been budding probably since the middle to the end of July, and it hasn't stopped. And bees are constantly here. When you walk through here, all you got to do is listen to bees. Some of it sounds like a beehive, but it's been a very, very good source of pollen. We think it's pollen, and it actually smells really good. And we cut it down and we give it to our neighbor's cat. So
I've seen butterflies on it too.
Butterflies as well. That's right. And we also have a white butterfly that's very rare. What's the name of the butterfly?
Well, I call them white ladies, but I don't know if that's their technical name.
Okay. Well, anyways, they like it over here. So this side is, so now looking into here is where our corn is and was. It was here. There's also some tomatoes over here, which there's some yellow tomatoes. There's some Roma tomatoes. Those are my second batch of tomatoes, and we'll get into further episodes what I mean by my second batch of tomatoes. But either way, we had a pretty successful with the corn. We had it towards the end. We had an animal. I caught a chipmunk. I had to keep the chipmunk out of there. I eradicated him and moved him. And then we had an animal come in and start eating the corn. But what was happening, here, pan down here, we were getting birds, and especially woodpeckers get in, and what they do is they peck at it. So it was really hard to stop.
I wouldn't let him kill those other animals.
Right. I was not.
He just had to rehome them.
I rehomed them. So, but what we did is we also did what the Indians used to do with the Three Sisters. It's called, we did beans, did pole beans in between on the corn.
They grow up the corn.
They grow up the corn.
And you get beans by the end of the corn season.
Yep. And then from here, we've got acorn and butternut squash. The butternut didn't grow as well, but the acorn grew well.
No, acorn didn't grow as well.
Okay, so I was wrong with that one. Okay.
Butternut is growing great.
All right, so
you could see there's a butternut right on the ground right there.
And then
more tomatoes.
And that tomato plant I did not plant. That came up naturally. It ended up being a San Marzano tomato plant, but it came up naturally. I did not plant that. But again, here, pan over here, as you can see, look what the birds did.
And what did we find out today? When did animals start going after stuff like this?
Yes, when this year we're in a severe drought situation. So typically when animals go after this, that means that we're in a drought condition and they're doing whatever they do to can get food. And it probably, I'm assuming it's got to be a good source of water for them too, because there's a lot of liquid in corn. So as we walk down here, if we come down, this is my garlic patch. It's a little bit filled with weeds, but we'll get farther into that in future episodes of how I'm going to clean that up. And
this is an end of a garlic.
That's one of the end of the garlics. Right here we got some fresh, we have parsley growing in the box. So coming down here we have our tomatoes, which
basil.
Basil coming down through here.
Between the tomato
plants.
I think it's important to say that we started picking weeks ago and we're still picking.
Yeah, I'm going to. I was planning on doing that after we put them in here. So we have several different kinds of basil, from Genovese to purple basil to a Chinese basil, and we have that all throughout the tomatoes. So today we're also going to be picking tomatoes. This would be now our 5th time that we have picked tomatoes, and each time I estimate we got between 10 and 12 pounds of tomatoes. So as of right now, we're sitting on 50 pounds of tomatoes. So again, today we're going to pick, and then we're going to eventually what we're doing now is we're going to we've been freezing a lot of the I call it processing. You bring the tomatoes in, you process them, you make puree out of them. We've been freezing, but we experimented with jarring, and so now we decided that we're going to start jarring them instead of freezing them to make more room into our freezer. So future episodes for that as well. So
We also still have eggplant growing, just starting.
yep. Again, down over here we have lettuce. That is, we're at
Some
the
of
end.
it's going to seed.
We're at the end of the growing season, but come over here. I planted this lettuce right here to see whether or not it would come up. So maybe, yeah, maybe it'll come up. So got the back wall. We got some eggplant, some radishes, and we got over here a weird plant that I didn't plant, but that's called an okra. Not sure what to do with that just yet, but yeah, that's called an okra. And we got radishes. Or beets, I should say. I'm sorry, beets.
I thought they were radishes.
All right, so come down over here.
Oh, and the peppers.
This is our pepper section. We have ghost peppers here, which looks like they're ready to be picked. We have Tabasco peppers. This
Lots
plant,
of Tabasco
pepper.
peppers.
These are bell peppers. They're kind of a mystery, but it looks like they're turning to red a little bit. All these are red and yellow peppers, except for these in the back. These are Italian hots. And yeah, so then this is the pepper section. We have some pretty big peppers starting to grow. Again, it's coming to the end of the growing season, so the bigger ones may have a chance to turn, but the chances are you may get 1 or 2, and that's about it because we're close to the end of the growing season. However, the 8 to 14 day forecast shows us to be much above normal, so we'll see what happens. We may still can be able to grow, but
Let's go over the type of tomatoes you grow.
yes.
So we're about to pick.
Okay, so we're about to pick some tomatoes. So at the beginning of the season, I started in December inside
In
a
my
greenhouse
dining room.
in our dining room,
I lost my dining room.
tomato plants. So the year before last, I planted tomatoes, and I took the tomatoes in. I seeded the tomatoes, which again we'll go over how I do that in future episodes. But I seeded the tomatoes, regrow them. I started them in December.
You numbered them.
Numbered them per season, per plant. So I tried to plant each individual plant as much as I'd like to. We discussed it to see which plants we wanted more of. So that's what we ended up doing this year. So there's probably, if I was to guess, I don't know how many total exactly, but there's probably 6, 7 varieties. We tried something different this year. We tried yellow tomatoes this year.
Those were really good.
Those are outstanding. So I seeded those. But if you come down here, we can start here. And again, these tomato plants that this is what happens this time of year with the tomato plants. They end up basically just growing till they can't grow no more, and this is what happens to them. But it doesn't mean that the tomatoes aren't good. So this plant right here, if you look at this tomato, this is one, especially tomato. It looks kind of like a pepper, but it's a tomato. And when you cut it open, it has amazing flavor to it, and a lot of juicy sauce you can get out of this, essentially. So we got our Roma tomatoes. These are, I don't know, I gotta be honest, but these are a Japanese tomato. they turn a different kind of color, like a gold, like a brownish color.
Red, brown, yeah.
Yeah, San Marzanos, and it's the same thing with the specialty. But again, they died. We had some that survived and some didn't. Did really well. These were something that I got off of Burpee's website called Super Sauce Tomatoes. And it back here too with this one. If you come back on this side, there's more of those there. So, grape tomatoes behind you.
They're still going.
They're still going.
And they're probably the sweetest that I have ever tasted, as well as most people who have had them.
A lot of San Marzano tomatoes.
Cherry tomatoes.
Cherry tomatoes. Roma tomatoes. If you pan now going this way. Oh, come back to this tomato.
Yeah.
This tomato I grew from Costco. I got one of the tomatoes that they, from there we made sauce one time. And then I ended up growing the tomatoes and they're very good. They have a very good taste to them. One of the best actually. Those are our cucumbers. They're actually still growing. We've had a pretty successful years for cucumbers. In the past years we didn't really have good success with them, but I changed everything around and to plant them where they are, and it really worked out well. So, but as you can see, the blank spots are where all the tomatoes were. So at the beginning of the season, I had 52 tomato plants, and this is what I'm left with. I planted in and around Mother's Day, well, a week before Mother's Day, because the weather was conducive towards it. And I planted them in waves. I planted 10, 15 at a time, and then I went in waves. And I also planted that way, so this way I had tall tomatoes, medium tomatoes, small tomatoes. So, but this is what we're left with, and it was a pretty good, pretty successful season.
You forgot about the potatoes.
I'm getting there. We're not over. The potatoes are over there behind you. We're not there yet.
Well, I'm the comic relief.
Okay, so we also have here. I was finding different towards the end of the spring, and we were getting into planting. We would. At stores we would find deals on certain pepper plants, so we decided to pick up some pepper plants. We got some jalapenos here. Those are red bells. So, all right, so come down over this way. More tomato plants. See, this one's kind of...
A couple of sunflowers coming through.
Oh yeah, some weird sunflowers.
All of a sudden, through the dead part of the cucumbers.
Yeah.
That's a statement in itself.
So this tomato plant, if you look at this tomato plant, this is actually one of the best ones that are still growing. It's still healthy. This would be a Roma tomato plant. Roma tomatoes are very good. They got very, very, very good flavor. Good for sauce. All right, so behind you, look down, there's an eggplant, which is kind of a different colored eggplant. So we got one good one out of that one. Now look up with the sunflower. We're gonna take that head, that sunflower head, and seed it, and that's gonna be next year's sunflowers. Oh, and behind you, turn around.
Oh, there's a pumpkin.
I'm getting there.
Good. Public service announcement.
This is what's it called again?
Goldenrod.
All right, so this right here, public service announcement for this is protection of the bees, because we do own bees. And again, in future episodes, I will touch upon the bees and what we do and how it's done. And but this is called goldenrod. If you see this growing in your yard, do not kill it. It's very good for the bees, especially around this time of the year. And if you pan down, we've got more of it growing, and it's a very good nectar source for them, especially
this time of the year.
This time of the year, they need food.
They're starting to prepare for winter.
Yep. So we have I grew pumpkins. There's one little pumpkin right there, one little guy right there. Out of all of I got a couple pumpkin plants that I grew. Not really too successful, but this right here is something that we are that we tried. That would be asparagus. So.
And you don't eat it the first year.
We did not pick any the first year. You wait till next year to get it, and so hopefully we'll get a nice crop. We extended it out here for this purpose. So, and then here we had, which I can't really show you, but here we had potatoes. We grew our potatoes. Now there's
best potatoes I've ever tasted.
Now we also have a sweet potato plant that didn't grow very well, and they just didn't take very well.
It looks like it's still trying.
Yeah, it's trying. it's trying. So, but anyways, we had potatoes here. We came from here this way. We ended up getting probably around 5 to 8 pounds of potatoes. They were really good.
There's the rest of that pumpkin.
Yeah, the pumpkin plant. We're letting those.
And here's something we don't know what it is, but there's flowers on it, so we're interested in seeing if the bees are attracted to it.
Right.
Or butterflies. Or any pollinator.
All right, so as you come to the front of the garden, got some marigold, spider
Tallest
flowers,
marigold you'll ever see.
spider flowers,
Spider flowers.
more
The
marigold.
weirdest flowers, but they're pretty, but they're
These are
strange.
hollyhocks. And we got ourselves a butterfly bush in there. Cannas, more morning glory. As you can see, I like morning glory. Morning glory is one of my favorite.
He's a little bit, tiny bit obsessed. It started in 2017 with some planting by the deck after my surgery, and since then they've been going crazy.
So that's the garden.
Oh, and our banana tree.
Yep.
That hopefully will grow bigger next year and actually maybe get some fruit.
So we have more down here. This is our banana tree. These are our
Oh,
yellow.
there's the other tomatoes.
There's our other tomato plants. Those are Roma tomatoes. These are the yellow tomatoes. And if you look down, we got one that's close to being ready. Not ready just yet.
But they're everywhere. Tomatoes, still growing.
More sunflowers.
More sunflowers. They've seen the end of their days, but
Yeah, getting close. We let the birds, as you can see, the birds, they'll start,
goldfinches love that.
they start eating those. So we like to, I leave them for the birds. And as you can see here, look, see the birds eat them. So try to give them some. And then down here is another acorn squash.
Yep.
And again, that came from this side of the garden. And we let that
Grow whatever way it
grow
went.
whatever way it went. And this is the view from the end of the garden. So,
And that's Gus, wondering what we're doing. And Baxter.
so
And there's our bees.
So that's the garden, and in future episodes we're going to show you how to prep. I'm going to show you how to prep for the fowling to pick the end of this year. Make sure you can seed different items, because different items you can collect seeds for and have them for next year. We're going to be going over that and preparing for the following year's growing in future episodes. And then you can follow me all winter if you'd like into growing tomatoes. I'll start that typically mid-December, I should say, and I'll start my rounds then. So
And be willing to lose a part of your house to the greenhouse,
right,
ladies
we lose
gentlemen.
Yeah, we lose part of our dining room.
But
to
what
the
you reap
greenhouse,
in
so-
rewards is worth it.
Right. So with that being said, we'll see you on next episode.